My name's Nancy J. Lewis, and I use the J because there's so many Nancy Lewises that it kind of distinguishes me. I'm an author, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I bring a varied background to my readers. I've ranched, farmed, worked in insurance agencies and hospitals and with special ed children, as well as a research and development lab for the Department of Defense. My latest career has been in the healing arts. I was an acupressure therapist, among other modalities. I am certified in 7 different modalities. Besides writing, which I have done for many, many years, but short stories and prose and poetry. My main hobby was breeding, training, raising, and showing Pembroke Welsh Corgi dogs in breed and obedience. All of this background has broadened my understanding of the natural world, including human nature. And I hope that that brings some bleeds over to the reader. And I want to tell you about my latest book. I've published, this is my 3rd book. I published it on Amazon eBooks. And it is a story that is set in the 1950s. By the way, I was a teenager in those years. and the story is about a forbidden love. One lover is constrained by her age and religion, and the other by moral obligations and legal issues. Now, I'd like to read you a couple of chapters, if I may, but also I'd like you to promote my books for me. I don't have any advertising other than you. And so I would like you to share with your friends. And if you don't have a Kindle, you can download the Kindle app for free onto your computer or tablet or etc. Then you can go to Amazon eBooks and type in Nancy J. Lewis. I kept the price low because I want people to read and enjoy. My books are all $2.99. And without further ado, I will read you from my 3rd book, Beloved We Meet. Chapter 1, April 1953. Cliff Morton looked at the payroll check envelope that his supervisor, Bob Schultz, set on his desk. He thought, it seems thicker than usual. I wonder if there's a pink slip in there. No, I know what I'm doing. This is a piece of cake compared to what I'm used to. He looked up and said, thanks, Bob. The invitation to Mr. Heaton's annual barbecue is also in there. You missed his Christmas party last year, Cliff. You're doing a good job here, but I'd like you to be more a part of the team. Please try to attend this get-together. He turned and walked away. Cliff put the envelope in his jacket pocket, looked down at the spreadsheet on his desk, and sighed. It has been over 7 years since he'd had the opportunity to socialize. Since they'd moved to Chester, Pennsylvania 8 months ago, he'd been focusing on his relationship with Karen. He thought, she's such a sweet girl. She's only 15, and she's had to be an adult for almost half of her life. So much of her childhood is gone. He sighed again. Maybe it's time we started becoming a part of a community besides church. Karen has her friends at school. I can't even say that I have one good friend. I haven't had a real friend since high school. Marie and I were good friends in college, but that's not like having a man friend. I've been living with blinders on for 8 years, ever since Marie got sick. Cancer is horrible and very expensive. But that's over now. No more debt, no more 6 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day. Now I have time for my little girl. God bless her. I'm so fortunate that he gave her to me. I could have gotten stuck with one of those rebellious teenage girls. Not my Karen. She's an angel, that girl, and beautiful too. She's going to be 16 in 3 months. Dating age. Oh God, I hope she dates good boys. He shook his head. Of course she'd choose good boys. I don't have to worry about my little angel. Cliff was brought back to the moment when he realized that everyone was leaving. He looked at the clock, 5:10. He put the spreadsheet in a desk drawer and stood. Patting the pocket with his paycheck in it, he walked to the door. 15 minutes later, he pulled into his driveway. The garage doors were open. He thought, Karen is such a thoughtful girl. She brightens my day. He pulled into the garage, turned off the ignition, and got out of the car. After pulling the 2 doors closed and latching them, he walked the few yards to the house, remembering the trek on this path covered with snow just a month ago. When he put his hand on the metal doorknob, he remembered how cold that knob was this past summer. He chuckled. I wish I could thank the man that invented gloves. He turned the knob, opened the door, and breathed in the aroma coming from the kitchen. Hi, honey, I'm home. Dinner's almost ready, Daddy. How was your day? The usual. How was yours? She laughed. The usual. Cliff loved to hear her laugh. Her voice was smooth and a little low for a girl. He went to his bedroom, took off his jacket and tie, unbuttoned the top of his shirt, then walked into the bathroom, and washed his hands. He looked in the mirror and thought, I see a few more gray hairs. Looks like the last 7 years are beginning to show, Cliffy boy. He picked up a comb and ran it through his hair. As he walked into the kitchen, he said, Smells good, honey. I hope you don't mind minute steak, mashed potatoes, and gravy. The first of the fresh green beans looked good, so I bought enough for a couple of meals. I love it when the fresh vegetables come in. You know I'm not very fond of canned ones. Cliff put his hands on her shoulders and kissed the back of her head as she was dishing up dinner. She turned her head, smiled, and kissed his cheek. She handed him the meat platter and bowl of mashed potatoes, then followed him into the dining room with the gravy boat and bowl of green beans in his hands. A small vase containing several flowers sat in the middle of the table. He smiled and winked at her. She returned the smile. There aren't many now, but there will be in a few weeks. It's a nice touch, very homey. When they were seated, he looked across the table at her, smiled, then bowed his head. We thank you, Lord, for this food and for all your goodness. Amen. She poured 2 cups of coffee from a carafe, adding sugar and cream to hers. He picked up the meat platter, took a piece, then handed it to her as she handed him the mashed potatoes. When their plates were full, he looked across the table at her and thought, Marie taught you well. You'll make someone a fine wife. Oh, Lord, what am I thinking of? She's only a child. I'll have her for many more years, through high school and college. She raised her eyes. Penny for your thoughts, Daddy. Oh, I was just thinking how grateful I am to have you. You're such a little angel. In another 5 or 6 years, you'll be gone, making a life of your own. I'll miss you, honey. Let's not think about that for 5 or 6 years. Who knows? I may be an old maid and you'll have to put up with me for the rest of your life. She laughed. He also laughed. I doubt that very seriously. In 3 months, you'll be 16 and the boys will be knocking at the door. I dread that. I'm afraid I'll be one of those doting fathers and worry about you every minute. I don't think you have to worry about that, Daddy. All the boys I've met so far are way too immature. You've had to grow up too fast, honey. Life has dealt you a hard hand. We've both been dealt hard hands, Daddy. But I think we're better for it. It's brought us closer to the Lord. I'm happy with my life. I wouldn't change a thing. He rubbed his eyes with his fingers. You've missed out on so much of your childhood, caring for your mother, then having to take over the cooking and the household chores. Life shouldn't be like that, Karen. Little girls are supposed to play with dolls, not cook and push a vacuum cleaner around. Oh, Daddy, it's not your fault. It's not anyone's fault. Things just happen in people's lives, and we have to deal with them and move on. I feel blessed that I had the mother I did. She was wonderful, and I loved her very much. I still do. And I didn't mind taking care of her when she was so sick. I only wish that she hadn't died so young. I know you've missed her terribly too, but we have each other, and I love you very much, Daddy. He shook his head. You see what I mean? You talk like a grown woman, not a teenage girl. It's not supposed to be this way. Well, it is this way, and we'll just have to deal with it. Do you want more coffee? Yes, please. Later that evening, Cliff retired to his room. When he was hanging up his jacket, he saw the envelope and opened it. He looked at the check and thought, I'll deposit it on my lunch hour tomorrow. Then he looked at the invitation. Heaton Enterprises, Employee Barbecue, Saturday, May 25th, from 4 to 7. Haven Ridge, 1469 Cherry Blossom Drive, Chester, Pennsylvania. He set the invitation on the dresser and went to bed. The following evening after dinner, Karen said, Daddy, I was dusting your room today and saw the invitation to your company's barbecue. Are you going? I'm giving it some thought. My supervisor told me I should start mingling more with the other employees. I don't know. I really don't like leaving you. We have so little time together. Maybe it's for the families too. You should ask. She smiled. They might have dancing. We'd like that. It'll give us a chance to practice what we've learned at Murray's dance studio. That's a good idea, honey. It would be loads of fun if there was dancing. We both enjoy that. I'll ask. The next day, Cliff knocked on Bob Schultz's door. Come in. Sorry to bother you, Bob, but I was wondering if you could tell me more about this barbecue. Are we to bring our families? Oh, absolutely. You'll enjoy it, Cliff. Sometimes the music is so loud you can't hear conversation, but for the most part, it's a fun time. Bring your wife and kids. I'm a widower, Bob, but I have a teenage daughter. Tell me, is it dance music? Oh yeah, Mr. Heaton loves to dance. There'll even be a live band. No rock and roll, more like big band and ballroom dance music. He does things upright. You haven't been here long enough to know how good he is to us. He knows how to keep us happy, more than just a nice paycheck. He chuckled. He's a great guy, very personable. Trust me, if you stick around for a while, you won't ever... I will have a second video. Please, folks, go watch part 2. It gets more interesting.